Good morning, you beautiful people. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day today. First off, I apologize for the sick voice. I just cannot hold off on making this video anymore. Skill-based matchmaking is still in Modern Warfare, and it is incredibly infuriating. Of all of the things, the 725, the claymores, the whatever that is, skill-based matchmaking is the worst thing about Modern Warfare. If you're looking for proof of skill-based matchmaking in Modern Warfare, this is not the video for you, but there is plenty of anecdotal evidence on Reddit, on YouTube, so many different things. I will link in the description a video from E. coli Espresso, Sour, and I believe there is a Reddit post down there that's talking about statistics about skill-based matchmaking, kind of proving that it is a thing, talking about lobby times and all that sort of good stuff. But today in this video, I'm going to be talking about why skill-based matchmaking is just the most idiotic idea ever. So Doughnuts, if it's the most idiotic idea ever, why do developers put it in the game? Well, that's a great place to start. Why is there skill-based matchmaking? What is the purpose behind skill-based matchmaking? The purpose behind skill-based matchmaking is to protect bad players from good players, and on a different level, it is to get new players comfortable with Call of Duty, so you don't have a new player coming into Call of Duty getting absolutely destroyed by somebody. The developers want this in hopes that those new players will get hooked on the Call of Duty formula and want to play and want to get better and want to, of course, buy more Call of Duties. However, in this video, I'm going to be making a lot of generalizations. I'm going to basically break down the all of the player base into good players, average players, and bad players. And statistically speaking, we're going to make a lot of generalizations here in order for the logic to work out here. I understand Call of Duty is very complicated, players and statistics are very complicated when it comes to this sort of stuff like KD, score per minute, whatever. We are just going to generalize and get the idea behind skill-based matchmaking. So how does skill-based matchmaking protect bad players? Well, within the namesake, skill-based matchmaking, it's a matchmaking system based on a player's skill level, which means that generally speaking, good players will only be matched up with other good players, average players will only play average players, and bad players will only be playing bad players. The reason this is successful is because, generally speaking, when you play somebody who is at your own skill level, you basically have a 50-50 chance of winning that encounter, whether that's being outshot, outgunned, out-tacticked, outflanked, outmaneuvered, whatever it is, there is a 50-50 chance of you winning or losing that engagement. This is more preferable for new players in the developer's eyes as opposed to those new players being matched up with good players and getting absolutely destroyed, where they have a significantly less than 50% chance of winning that gunfight. And they don't want them to have that negative experience, so that 50%, that 50-50 experience is what the developers have settled for. And thus we have skill-based matchmaking. However, this comes with several huge negatives. The first of which being skill-based matchmaking does not reward players for doing well. This is a game. When you do well, you're supposed to be rewarded for it. That's what Call of Duty is all about. That's why there are kill streaks in the game. The rich get richer. You are supposed to be better and be more, or you're supposed to be more rewarded when you are a better player. However, if we are looking into the minds of the bad player, let's say that skill-based matchmaking did its thing. I'm a new player to Call of Duty, skill-based matchmaking is in full effect, I get on, I'm having an absolute blast, I'm loving it, I go to YouTube, I go to Reddit, I look up all of these strategies, I look up how to get better, weapon statistics, map layouts, lines of sight, I do my due diligence, I practice, I do drills, I spend hours and hours and hours playing this game, and so I go back into Modern Warfare and I'm an absolute baller. I am an absolutely above average player. I am now a good player. Well, now that you're this good player, the skill-based matchmaking system is going to be like, oh, cool, he's a good player. Now he's going to be paired with other good players. And what you are going to experience, what that new player is going to experience is no change. If when you started playing, you only got 10 kills and 10 deaths, and you did all of this research, and you, for a few games, got a lot better, the game would put you in a more experienced lobby, a more skillful lobby, and you might just go right back down to getting 10 kills and 10 deaths. Now, you are playing against better players, but you're still only getting 10 kills and 10 deaths. Your performance isn't being shown, isn't improving. Not only that, but now you're not getting any more kill streaks, you're not doing so well in game, and so you start using these really high performance weapons like the M4 and the 725. Now you're not pushing as much, now you're holding back, now you're camping a little bit more, taking it more slowly. Now you're not as confident, and this is the downward spiral of skill-based matchmaking. This is the second downside. Everybody's using the absolute best weapons. When you look at Call of Duty competitive scene, they only use one assault rifle or one SMG or they use the absolute best weapon, as opposed to in public matches where in the past you would see a large variety of different weapons. I love the weapon variety here in Modern Warfare. I honestly don't think the M4 is that overpowered when you look at the Kilo and the M13, and I love the Scar and the AK. There's lots of fantastic weapons. It's just that the M4 is statistically the best, and so in order for these players to try to do as best as they can, they are using the best that is provided. Now you could solve this problem by giving players a competitive rank, because that would reward the player, right? That happens a lot in competitive games. You are given a skill bracket, you're given bronze, silver, gold, diamond, platinum, whatever the case may be, you are given some sort of skill bracket to be proud of. So that way, when you go 10 and 10 in the platinum bracket, you feel rewarded as opposed to going 10 and 10 in the bronze bracket. However, with Modern Warfare, because it's public matches, because it's just casual Call of Duty, there are none of that. There is none of that. There's no brackets, there's no rankings. You can't tell if you're doing better than you started. You can't tell if you've gotten worse. You can't tell what skilled players you're going up against. There's no way to be rewarded with anything here in Modern Warfare. And so ironically, skill-based matchmaking is designed to protect those new players, and in order to encourage them to keep playing the game, well, once they keep playing the game, skill-based matchmaking screws them over into never enjoying the game. Now, the obvious downside for the good players is that now the good players are going up against all other good players, and so they're doing about average, and their performance is really significantly hindered, and they don't feel as rewarded either. Now, I've seen a lot of people say that good players just want to shoot fish in a barrel and to stomp all over noobs, and they just want to have their power fantasy while they play Call of Duty. They want to pretend they're good by playing bad players. However, this is not the case for me. I don't mind going up against good players. I think there is some fun competitive games that can definitely be played, and there is room for that in Call of Duty. However, what I think the problem is with good players, from the good players' perspective, is that their skill, again, is not accurately represented. They are not adequately rewarded. I love the analogy that Call of Duty public matches is like a game of pickup basketball. You know, sometimes you'll get the people who are about average at basketball. Sometimes you'll get like the guy who was varsity in high school, so he's really intelligent. He knows all these different like routes and defenses and all this sort of good stuff. And then you'll get the people who don't even know how to dribble, and it's just like, it's fun. It's a casual game. Nobody's really going at it really hard. They're just having fun, relaxed, and of course, y'all know who the good people are, y'all know who the bad people are, but you're having fun, you're trying your best, and you're enjoying your time anyway. Can you imagine that if you were some NBA player, if you were LeBron James or Kobe Bryant or whatever, you were this amazing NBA player, and you were never, ever, ever allowed to play basketball with anybody unless they were at your own skill level, unless they were in the NBA at your own skill level, that was the only people you could ever play against. There is some logic to say, well, it wouldn't be fair if in a game of pickup basketball, LeBron James comes in, but because of course he's just going to destroy everybody, right? To that I say, yeah, you're absolutely right. It wouldn't be fair. But do you know why? Because LeBron James put in hours and hours and days and months and years of dedicated training and practice and knowledge and learning about basketball to be good at basketball. So in my eyes, through my logic, he deserves to be able to crush anybody at the casual work picnic or church gathering or pickup basketball game. Of course, he deserves that because he's put in the time to do that. The same goes for Call of Duty matches. Players have played this game for years and years, and they've been practicing and practicing and practicing and studying and looking over maps and weapon statistics and trying their best to be good, better, above average players. They deserve to be rewarded too. And part of the fun, a huge part of the fun of all games ever, is to get better at them, is to have hope that, yeah, I might not be good now, but I can get better, and look at how good I can get. Going back to my pickup basketball metaphor, when you are playing a game of pickup basketball, and you do know those players who are below average or bad, is it because they hate the game of basketball? Is it because they can't play with anybody better than them? No, it's probably because they just aren't interested in basketball. It's probably something they've never really dived into. It's probably something they don't really care about. And so if skill-based matchmaking were in games of pickup basketball and bad basketball players only played up against other bad basketball players, I don't think that would change their mind. I think the same goes for Call of Duty. I think some players are bad, and they're okay with that. I think some people play this game casually. I think some people just are okay with not doing well and having fun and relaxing. I don't think the developers or Activision need to bend over backwards to try to cater the entire game for these types of people, especially at the expense of the fan base who has put in the time and the energy and the effort to learn this game and to love this game and to practice and be good at this game. I don't think any good player wants to go on some power fantasy pretending like they're the best player ever. I mean, if people wanted to do that, they can just go into a private match with bots and get nukes every game. People crave an accurate representation of their skill. Skill-based matchmaking doesn't provide that. It doesn't provide it for bad players, it doesn't provide it for average players, it doesn't provide it for good players. After all, what's the point behind playing a game if you're never going to get better, or you're never going to learn anything, or you're never going to use what you have learned and get better? Trying to do good in a skill-based matchmaking system is a lot like trying to run a marathon when somebody keeps trying to move the finish line. I don't know where to segue into this, but skill-based matchmaking has another problem, and it has to do with, unfortunately, parties and groups and people who want to play together, which is unfortunate because Modern Warfare is the first time I've played with some of my friends in years, and it's absolutely fantastic. However, when you get somebody who is a good or above average player, and you get those above average lobbies, and you pair them up with one of their friends who may be average or below average, those below average or average players get absolutely destroyed. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence for this, of course, on Reddit, but myself included. There are many times where my friends say, I do so much better when I'm not playing with you. I usually go positive, except when I'm playing with you. I usually get kill streaks unless I'm playing with you. So, and I see this all over the Reddit, so it's just another downside of skill-based matchmaking. And of course, there's the downside of you really should base matchmaking based on latency instead of skill, because if you're basing it off of skill, that could sacrifice your connection and therefore make the game perform worse, which it's kind of debatable on how big of an effect this has in Call of Duty, but it is a downside that I need to mention because it definitely is a downside, however minimal or big it may be. So what's the solution here? Well, I think the solution is obvious. We need a competitive playlist. Like I said, I love competitive games. Everybody loves competitive games, and we all don't mind playing against good players. However, they just need to be rewarded for it. We just need to be rewarded for it. So a competitive playlist with rankings where we can show off our rank and show off our skill bracket rather than our KD or score per minute or whatever would be a great solution. And this could also be where new players go if they want to avoid getting absolutely destroyed by pub stompers. And in my ideal world, every lobby would have a couple good players, a couple average players, and a couple bad players. Or of course, the lobbies could be completely random so that you get a different experience every time. However, when we go with the some good, some average, some below average players kind of metaphor here, here's some statistics and math for you guys to really grasp. Here we have a good player, average player, and bad player, and as they play the game, they will go up against other good players, average players, and bad players. As we stated before, players who play against people their own skill level will win half the time, about 50% of the time. So good players will win 50% of engagements with good players, average players will win 50% of engagements with average players, and bad players will win about 50% of engagements with bad players. Talking about good players, when they go up against average and bad players, generally speaking, they should win 100% of the time because they are a better player. Again, side note, I know Call of Duty different, very different. You know, it's just statistically speaking, this is kind of how we think about it. Average players would win 0% of engagements with good players and 100% of engagements with bad players. And unfortunately, bad players would win 0% of engagements with average players and good players. So if we average out these percents, you have good players winning 83% of their engagements, you have average players winning half of their engagements, and you have bad players winning 16% of their engagements. Now, if you were to see this and you were a developer or Activision or whoever, and you saw that the bad players or the new players only had a 16% chance of winning against your average or good players, of course you'd want to implement skill-based matchmaking because 50% is far significantly better than 16%. However, what this provides is something that skill-based matchmaking can't. When you see 16.6%, you're like, whoa, that's crazy. But if those players tried, if those players practiced, if those players got into the game and studied and practiced, they could see themselves getting better. And they could actually get the feedback. They can see themselves starting to go even, starting to get a 1 KD. They can see themselves starting to get a 1.5 KD, 1.7 KD, 1.8 KD. They can see the results and they can become more and more addicted to the game. Not only that, but you're rewarding the good players and everybody is getting an accurate representation of their own skill. No longer do you have to worry about how good of a player am I? Am I really that good? Have I gotten worse? Have I gotten better? Because you see the results in front of you. If you want new players to enjoy your game, give new players videos, tutorials, guidelines, practice sessions in order to get them better with your game. Don't try to change your game fundamentally in order to conform to their skill level, because if you do that, you will completely ruin any sort of competitiveness or any sort of depth that is in your game. And not only that, but you encourage the bad habits that make bad players bad in the first place. So instead of skill-based matchmaking, why not provide bad players with the tools they need in order to be successful? Well, how do we do that, Doughnuts? Well, there are so many different ways. First and foremost, you can create really cool little mini tutorials. I mean, you guys have them for the kill streaks. Why not do that with like the mini map or the sprint or the maps? You know, have your own development team make videos about the maps themselves. Hey, there's a 2-story building here. Hey, there's a cool jump spot here. Hey, there's a line of sight here. Why not put those videos in game? And if we're talking videos, you can just rip off everything from Exclusive Ace's video, or just put Exclusive Ace in Modern Warfare as a little tab. You can just go to his channel because he has everything from gun guides to maps, lines of sight to, how to aim better. And it's just, the door's open for you developers. Give the tools to the bad players. Like, this shouldn't be difficult. Every single time the developers have tried to cater to bad players, it's made the game worse. Every single time. It started back in Call of Duty or Modern Warfare 2 with death streaks. That was catering to bad players, made the game worse. Black Ops or Modern Warfare 3, death streaks again, and even the specialist system with the EMP stealth bomber made the game worse. Back in Black Ops 3, the specialist system was introduced. Why? To give the bad players a feeling like they earned something when they actually didn't, and made the game worse. Every time you cater to bad players, it makes the game worse. Be proud of the skill ceiling that you have. Be proud that Call of Duty is easy to pick up but difficult to master. Be proud that it takes a lot of skill and in-depth knowledge and talent to be good at this game. Don't discourage that. Showcase that. Yes, new players come in, but look at how good you can be. Yes, it is possible. Skill-based matchmaking doesn't reward players for getting better. It doesn't accurately represent the skill of the good or above average players, and it breaks apart friendships because people can no longer play together unless they're on the same level. However, if we had public matches that were random or balanced and a competitive playlist, then bad players could go to the competitive playlist in order to slowly get better, and players who wanted a competitive experience could use it for the same function. And public matches could be used for casual fun, and good players could actually show off that they are good players. You would get more weapon variety. You would see less M4s and, well, maybe not less 725s, as things really darn overpowered, but you would get more variety. You would see more people taking risks, going for the objective, using different setups, running different perks, and having more fun. I truly thank you if you've made it this far into the video. This video took so long to make, and so much time and thought about skill-based matchmaking went into this. So hopefully it's cohesive, it makes logical sense, and you enjoyed. Two videos you may have missed here. On the left, we have Kill Chain. This is an absolutely insane perk, especially in 10v10. Secrets await. Go check out that video. You are missing out if you haven't seen that video. And on the right, you have my video talking about weapon balance. Now, you'd think after the latest patch, it wouldn't have aged well, but surprisingly, the patch didn't really do anything with the 725, so that video has aged pretty good. So check out that video on the right. Thank you so much, and stay beautiful.